Shall I call this to order?
Yeah.
I don't want to overstep that. Okay. Thank you.
You want water?
Hello, how are you? Fine, thank you. Omar, would you like to talk before you close to your computer, obviously? Aaron takes it. Hello. Rob, Louise, it's nice to meet you.
What's happening?
Not much. Little as possible.
Little as possible, Do we have enough chairs? Sure. I think so. Now we can pull chairs out of my office. Do we want to just go a round of introductions?
I think a round of introductions would be great, and then you set whatever frame you would like, and then I can sort of set a little frame, and we'll go from there.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here. We just wanted to do a quick work study session with Omar Fayed, and I'll introduce him in a second, but they're proposing doing a greenhouse project. So that means that we're in desperate need of housing, and we're in desperate need of jobs. So we have job creation and eventually even a hotel. So this is going to be Omar's opportunity to present his plan. These guys was by village councilors that were able to make it tonight. This calls here from QEDF. Back here, Gabe Herrera from Chevron. We have Luis Herrera from the QEDF board as well. So I introduced everyone, but I can let everyone introduce themselves anyway.
Okay, Jason Gonzalez, Village Council, Questa. Aaron Resnick with In Our Hands and Solid Air.
Mark Goldman with Mark Goldman out of our branch center in Mexico. And Rob Wire, Peregrine Construction in Taos.
I'm Paige Ryan, I'm with the State of New Mexico Economic Development.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for having me. Super great to be here from Omar Fayed, ESTEE. I guess we're all from different companies, but we're all in this together. So we have individually, but also one.
Yeah.
Liz Gall, Questa Business Park. Camila Pereira, I'm with Inform Health Foundation.
Scott McCarty, local builder.
Lola, Barlow,
Charlie within our hands and Solid Air and Peregrine.
Leo there, I'm also with Peregrine in our hands and Solid Air.
What's this list? Mr. Flynn. Sanchez, Escalade, Trucking, Costa.
I'm Jason Mackey, I'm also with Solid Air in our hands.
I'm Amanda Dean, I'm with Peregrine Construction. I'm also the working with Questa Economic Development. I'm Ingrid, and I'm with Peregrine.
Luis Herrera, I'm with the Questa Economic Development Fund. I'm the board member there. It's going to be traveling too.
Jason.
Hello, I'm Jason. I'm the president for the school board.
Well, I'll turn it over to you, Omar, and let you.
I'm happy to take the lead.
Do you want me to?
I'm really happy to take the lead. Let's go.
Go for it.
Should I stand or should I sit?
Stand.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here, everybody. Thank you so much. And this is such a cool forum to have a conversation. I love conversations, what we get out of them, exploration and education, learn so much. I hate presentations. Disclaimer. So I mean, framing this project, conversation is so important for me to learn more about Questa. Well, for you to learn more about me and us. I don't want to frame this as my project or my vision, because this is something that has really emerged kind of spontaneously and totally organically. I have the same questions that you probably do about me. Why am I here? I framed this first line, finance background, cut my teeth in a whole bunch of different industries as a young man, but pretty quickly, became burnt out and tired of the way that we were generally doing things in our industrial, commercial cultures in life, and to the point where actually I found it really difficult to have confidence in the future that I found myself facing, where I couldn't see one that was going to be harmonious with a future that was going to work for more people than just a few. A lot of money being the bottom line, profit maximizing being the standard operating procedure for every business. And there's nothing wrong with this in a way, spiritual integrity of the people making it, and then the impacts that industries have on other people. And 15 years ago, more than 15 years ago actually, now 2009, wow, how time flies.
Yes.
I was introduced in London, in the UK, to an organization. I was working at a big retail, and I was young and naive in my home, still a culture of change and adopt and embrace some practices with integrity, particularly when it came down to the working environment for our team and staff and employees, but also for our customers. Whether it was the air quality, the lighting, the pollution levels, people dealing with really high pressure work environments that were generally unhealthy. And I found myself in a position where I could influence that, but naively believed that I would succeed. And I was introduced by a friend of mine to an organization that I didn't know at the time, called the Institute of Ecological Consultancy Businesses. And I was hoping that these guys would come in and help me convince our board to adopt some serious practices and concerns, at least considerations around sustainability. Because everybody in the company was like, hey, we're recycling our staff and employees we're living and working in. And by that, I mean, with one little example, is that we had a food and beverage distribution component to the business, and we would take, there would be sub-basement levels where staff would be coming in 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, late November, December in the UK, completely pitch black, cold. They go down to the inferno of a distribution facility, completely lit with fluorescent lights, pumping in air from curbside air in a big city. And it was just pretty torturous, and it made me feel a little bit guilty. I went to the Institute's office and I pitched an idea where they would come in as a consultant and try to help me introduce some objective, scientific-based evidence to our board that would then take these considerations more seriously. I failed miserably, and I really was bashing my head against a brick wall. I really blame anybody for that. I realized it was just part of the culture. And it wasn't before long that I discovered that, one, you cannot fight the system to change it. The best way to change something is to build something else that makes what was previously not working obsolete. It just channels people into a direction where, oh my God, well, that works really well and it's economically viable, and let's go there, let's go in that direction. And getting to know the Institute, and we began this consultancy project before I burnt myself out. I ended up leaving my job and joining them, I applied. This is a really fast forward story, but I don't want to take too much time. But I think it's important to share with you where I'm coming from and how I got here, which is still a little bit of a mystery to me. So but it is through the Institute of Ecotechnics based in Santa Fe. I applied to their researcher program. I don't have a college degree. I barely made it through high school. I left actually at 16. Did a number of different jobs. And I thought this was also a good way that I could get some academic credentials doing something and learning with people that I actually had confidence knew some real shit. And help bring peace to my heart and soul that, you know, there was a future in this like complete abyss that I saw. I really, as a 20-year-old, I didn't see a future. I literally just felt that everybody's just cashing in, taking out, looking after their own pockets, and not giving a shit about. Well, I grew up in a rural environment, you know, so I was out with my brother and the dogs every day, running around in the woods, and hustling and grinding away. That I physically suffered from that, and I had to get out from that. The Institute of Ecotechnics and their team was like, you know, they adopted me as a kind of family, and we began this relationship. I got them in with the company, and it was all working out. And then I was just like, I can't do this anymore. But in the process of doing that, I got to learn about them and what they had achieved and what they were doing. By the way, I don't know if anybody knows about the Biosphere 2 project in Arizona, giant greenhouse in the middle of the desert. It was like legendary sci-fi stuff. It was like, wow, I cannot believe, like, I'm meeting with people that were involved in inventing and creating and operating that. 8 people living in complete containment in a sealed, it was more tightly sealed than the shuttle program at the time. No air in, no air out, no water in, no water out. Everything, every molecule they breathed, every sip they drank was regenerated from their ecosystem. And I just thought, wow. It was all an experiment, and some people are a little bit, you know, wary about the whole thing being a failure, but in reality, nothing in science and research is ever a failure. So much was learned, including and mainly like the human impact on our ecosystem. Every breath of air somebody took that was produced by the plants, and every bottle of water that went in also went out, and that went back into the ecosystem. I was accepted. I went traveling because I didn't hear back from the institute. I applied for the research program, having to figure out what I was going to do next. And 3 months later, lo and behold, they accepted me for the program. I don't want to bore you with the whole long story, but it was an amazing opportunity that eventually led me to be based at one of the. After doing 3 months on their SHIP program, I found myself in Santa Fe, New Mexico, working on, and it was a volunteer program, and it was trial by fire. They made sure everybody that was coming into that knew how to roll their sleeves up and do shit, and not just sit there as some kind of academic reading books. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but this was a practical program that was designed to develop people who could do stuff and make change and impact. And I have so much thanks for them, and so much thanks to New Mexico. I fell in love with New Mexico the moment I got off the plane at Albuquerque Airport, drove up to 25 and pulled up at Sigia Ranch in just near Madrid. I later came to call it, no, it's the land of entrapment, not the land of
Enchantment.
I know why now. So I like to keep saying 15 years, but I realize it's been longer than that now. Continued working together on many really cool projects, and I started 2 companies out of the institute. They were kind of my main motivation was designing, also like channeling my business experience in retail, real estate. On 3C, and as a foundation, I'm now sat on the board of the director of the institute and another foundation for that matter. And I know what it's like to go out and raise funds. It's tiring and it takes so much time. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, it's a great thing about business and industry is that so long as it's managed and conducted with integrity and vision and the values are maintained, making money and making a project commercially viable saves time because everybody wins. And that way it is by definition sustainable. Sustainability is not just ecological and it's not just economical. They're 2 sides of the same coin. And that's been the principle that has been core and central to all of our. Fast forward, blah, blah, blah. We were focused on designing and developing regenerative life support systems, wastewater treatment, food production facilities, and air treatment and air generation systems. And then the combination of those with a really far out vision to develop habitat systems for human life support in space exploration missions. And that was just not only really fucking cool, but it was also something that was absolutely necessary. Necessity is the mother of invention. And it's a far out thing to consider, but in 1.8 billion years of radiation, there's not going to be any Earth life. So there's a kind of Noah's Ark destiny of humanity to become a spacefaring civilization. I'm not going to get sci-fi anymore. Chill. But what struck me about that, and what a lot of people criticize me, oh yeah, space, you want to go back in space, but by the way, I'm not a billionaire. I've been broke twice, and I've been $15 million in debt, and I've clawed my way back out of the situation from subterranean worlds to standing here right now with some degree of stability, knowing that nothing great can be done alone and that we all face the same challenges. But in that period of time, bringing back to the business and the project here now, a lot of stuff can happen in the period that we have before we're all done and dusted anyway. And our future generations and kids and their kids have to face that eventual threat of the sun's radiation. So it's like the development of this technology for space applications served as a channel also for humanity's exploration and that spirit of adventure. And I saw from a political level, I realized through working with the institute that was advising and involved in high-level national space administration forums, etc., that a lot of them were burdened down by sea, and that there was space in the private sector to do something. I don't want to either kind of by any way associate to must stuff, because it's not. But by pushing the parameters of our problems to solving problems of human life support on Mars, we automatically then have to address challenges related to reliability, resourcefulness that are so extreme, they're not even relevant on Earth. We need to develop technologies that are so damn reliable that they do not break. And if they do break, they're easy to fix without any prospect of resupply or rescue. So with that mentality, we started working on the same kind of systems, but applying them for Earth within our area of expertise. And funny enough, that's how we came to Questa, because I came up with a project that was a practical project that was addressing two main problems: food security and energy security. And I'm not one of the electric car, everything all Tesla. And I actually completely find that it's a bit of a joke, because we need to work with the existing system, what we have. We cannot just rug pull entire industries and economies. And also, the infrastructure is not there. You don't have charging stations. Plus, to make an electric car, you need to blow up half mountains in the Congo to get the lithium to make the batteries. And what do you do when they break down? You need a technician that's certified to work on high voltage power. So they're really we don't need to reinvent so much stuff. And I think so much stuff has been developed and invented without any know-how has gone like this. We know how to do all this stuff, but for what? Know-how has been left in the almost pre-Second World War era. And there are so many things. Even before that, look at Adobe construction. Let's look at our ancestors' way of living with the environment, with the ecosystem in harmony. There was no AC. There was no, underfloor whole house heating systems. But we've come all this stuff with convenience, and I don't think anybody's to blame for that. It's just that we as human beings have capabilities of inventing stuff. But it's kind of stop a moment of stop and check ourselves before we wreck ourselves. And so this idea that the combination of working titles and acronyms, there's so many 3-letter, 4-letter acronyms for different projects, but places and climates which are extreme, either very little water or too hot or too cold, short growing seasons because of the light. And then the energy component to that was beneficial for 2 reasons. One, we need energy for heating, cooling, ventilation, irrigation. And 2, why is food that's healthy for you more expensive? You know, but it's like, holy shit. That just made no sense. So by bringing the energy component into that, we could also then offset the cost and subsidize the food production. So growing really high quality food crops in high quantities as well, with very low resources, easy to manage, and without offending existing agricultural ecosystems by carefully selecting agricultural facilities adapted to the 21st century, but making them economically viable to run as well, with the energy and resource consumption. But then sell power back into the grid that would be able to be used in residential, industrial, all kinds of areas of life would then help to offset the cost of the food. And we were struggling with that. Actually, our first project was in the Gulf that we were exploring in the Emirates, United Arab Emirates, where there's really huge problems with water, extreme temperatures, sand. And it all got a bit too political there. And I thought, fuck, I don't want to get involved with any of this politics. And it was just before like all the Iran stuff and the Syria stuff was kicking off. And Yemen was shooting rockets into the Emirates, and Iraq, you could see Iran from the other side of the Gulf. I just decided, I kind of, no for now, thank you. And so it kind of came back to home, believe it or not, Santa Fe and the Institute of Techniques was home away from home. And I thought, oh my God, it's like, you know, sometimes the thing that's right in front of your nose is the thing you overlook. And it's like, why are we doing this here? So we started exploring the project. Actually first at Synergia Ranch, the base, 300 acres of amazing transformed arid land, full of arroyos, really team there turned this place into a desert oasis. And when I joined and cut my teeth working on the organic farm and the orchard there, 300 fruit trees in the middle of the desert, you know, how that was manifested was a huge inspiration for me. And so we started looking at that, and it was just like the agricultural, the food production element, and the energy side. And I'm not talking about like a huge solar park, just enough energy to offset the cost of the food production, and enough to be able to resell and supply and to offset the cost of the food. But then came the plug into the grid, and PNN were the energy supplies for the region. I'm not even going to go into that because it was unbelievably complicated working with those guys and all of the kind of vested interests and blah, blah, blah. So, okay, damn. I then had the opportunity through a buddy of mine to join a conversation. He invited me based on what we were doing to meet with 9 other entrepreneurs, 10 of us, 10 policymakers, representative of New Mexico state government, and 10 venture capital, people that were financing projects related to clean tech. Also, the 2 areas of priority in the government and state government's mandate, which were number 1, education, number 2, anything climate tech, because it's not going to be forever. So what's next? And healthcare. And so I plugged in on the kind of clean tech, environmental enterprise side of things. I was going to put some stuff up there on the presentation, but as I said, love conversation, hate presentation. My brain works like it's sideways, and I have to do that anyway because there's some really important stuff I'd love to share and show you guys, and then we can follow up with. So Representative Dixon, Meredith Dixon of the Mexico state government was there, and she's like, holy shit, this is amazing. You know, we are running many programs within the state government that's supporting initiatives like this. Introduce me to Paige. I think, do we have the page slide?
The page slide.
I might as well just jump back onto the slide and now and zoom through. But when Paige, when we met with Paige and Paige introduced us to New Mexico State Government's Economic Development Department program, things started to like broaden the horizon, and thankfully, and also thanks to this forum of conversation, this kind of one-way conversation, we were introduced to KCC, Kit Carson Collective, as a cooperative, as a potential partner to work on the energy element of the food production. Mayor John, thank you so much for all the kind hospitality and encouragement. And so cool to meet all of you through these newfound friendships. Then we discovered the Green Hydrogen Project. And I was like, oh, wow, that's really cool. There's definitely something happening in northern New Mexico. And that is like beyond that. I think it's a world first, isn't it?
It'll be the first in the country that is used for energy production.
And so for this, for the hybrid food and energy security project, started to look around on here, and everything still is in the early days, which is what makes this conversation and presentation so you guys want and need. It seems like that, but it's not going to happen without your support and encouragement. And if ultimately it seems to me that we are addressing real problems, but if we're not, then what's the point in doing what we're doing? Because that's all we want to do and need to do. I think everybody can agree that, you know, the world, the planet, humanity faces some real existential problems, and the problems that we face here in Questa are not isolated. But there's an opportunity to do something here and in a way transform the trajectory of what's happened in the past into a direction that is, I swear a lot, it's really difficult to speak in public. And like the Green Hydrogen Project, that was super inspiring. It set an example. And it was kind of shocking to discover first, like, I don't think it's Chevron's fault per se, but like the whole molybdenum mine and how the community literally lost 300 jobs in like one fell swoop. And what happens then in a place, seasonal location, it's like, you know, winters are great, there's lots of like tourists and whatnot, and then all of a sudden it's just straight up back to agriculture, farming, and then, you know, everybody has to kind of, you know, cash in the season, and then it goes back to really kind of grassroots and really, for me, important stuff, but it's difficult to survive at that, you know. So building these kind of, diversifying the economy is also really cool for resilience at that level. And then with the Green Hydrogen Project, we learned that, okay, that's great, but you know, the housing thing, I had the opportunity to, or then it was in a way proposed to us, like, can we build the housing element? Oh my God, that's amazing. That is absolutely amazing, because not only are we solving absolutely urgent problems which fit and feed into the prospect of the green hydrogen, but also we're going to be creating more. What brings people up here, people who, you know, in a way, they're professionals, educators, they're not going to come to a place where they don't have a place to live. And, you know, thinking about families and futures as well, if they're not going to be able to house their kids in a degree of real comfort and health and happiness, what's the point in coming up here? We're going to go somewhere else. So I was like, oh wow, that's so cool. And it built a degree of stability to the project, which is very close to my heart. Please don't get me wrong, I now fully appreciate and love the real estate, the residential, the housing construction element. And I value that now more than I had ever imagined I would. Not only at a Questa level, but at a state, at a national, okay, we'll just keep it at that. But it's true. And every time I come out here, I also see like workforce housing, affordable housing. It's like built from techniques and methods that are so outdated that, I mean, it's borderline unacceptable. And there are ways of doing things now in terms of construction that make these projects not only viable, but sustainable in the long run. Houses, I mean, what are you going to do? Kind of give your life and soul to your community, working, whatever kind of job. I give your trailer to your kid. It's like, come on. There are ways of doing what previously was done in ways that are super integral and that are built for longevity, generational longevity and generational happiness. I come from a very culturally diverse. My mom's from Finland in Scandinavia, up in the Arctic Circle, part of the country, and my dad's from Egypt. I was born in the UK, grew up for the best part of my life there, and studied for the best part of my adult life in the US. And so I stopped, when I was 26, I stopped trying to think of where I was from. I cannot do that. I definitely feel very at home here. And thank you guys again for the opportunity to share a little insight into this project. Zoom through the presentation, I'll shut up. And by the way, if like, you want to do me or just tell me to shut up, let me know, because it's helpful feedback. You know, if I'm going off course and it's something you don't want, it's helpful to know now before we get going. Because ultimately, when we do, this is something that's urgent for a number of different reasons. We push the housing component first and foremost, because that is what is most important right here, right now. But also, I need to be transparent with, you know, the food production thing. That's my passion. That's my baby. That's what I want to do. And we can do that here in addition to doing everything else. And that's just another, for me, it's like pioneering. If it's not pioneering, it's not interesting. I don't want to get stuck in the same cycle of like consumer industrial crap that our forefathers, that was pioneering back then, but we now have learned so much more, and it's important that we just go for it and we get it done and we set some real milestones and precedents that other people go, holy shit, look what these guys are doing, look at what they did. We can do that too. And at the end of the day, it's not about making money, it's about having an impact. And if somebody else sees this, what we've done here, and copies that, that's amazing. I don't think they will, because they haven't got a team like this. And it's going to be really cool. I can't wait for you guys to learn a little bit from the construction side, because that's beyond exciting to me.
I did to put my over a year, and Omar a little bit over a year ago. The first talk was about plant production, and we talked about that. And since the mine shut, we've created very few jobs here in Questa. We had Taos Peaks, now Taos Peaks is gone. Other than that, there's been a few, I'll admit that, but it's not been as many as we'd like. We haven't replaced the 300 jobs that were laid off. We have contract work going on, but that's going to go away eventually. Eventually, there's not going to be any more contract work, so we need to have long-term jobs, and that's where a plant production facility makes sense. Just getting a company that likes Questa and loves Questa. I talked to Omar about Bautista. They can't stop talking about Questa, and when you compare Switzerland to Questa, and you say Questa's beautiful, Bautista says the same thing every time he's here as well. But we're getting jobs, we're getting affordable housing, and when we talk about affordable housing, we're talking about affordable workforce housing, not affordable, and nothing wrong with low-income housing either. But the project is intended for, and I'm not trying not to speak for you Omar too much, but the project is intended to build houses for teachers, for police officers, firefighters, these people that are working at the mine right now that don't have a place. I know there's a lot of them that are living in trailers or RVs, or they're living in hotels in Red River. We also have a market for they fill up, and so that's where our conversation kind of turned. And I was actually surprised when I met Omar. That was the conversation we had. And I didn't think it was going anymore. I thought we were still talking about a plant production facility, which was great. But then the conversation shifted 2 months later to housing, and that was I was pretty impressed by that conversation, and the conversations that we've had throughout the last year about how the project's going to work. I'm seeing a bunch of business owners in here, and I'm going to tell you, just knowing what I know so far as a business owner, you guys are going to like it.
So my name is Paige Ryan. I work with the State Economic Development Department. I am a regional representative. We have regional representatives for every region of the state, and we all fight over who has the best region, and I'm confident that I do. North Central New Mexico. So I've worked a lot with the mayor. I've worked a lot with Lynn Skull. These are my partners really on our side. But from my perspective as a state employee, it was almost 2 years ago, I guess now, I got called into a teleconference with this guy named Omar Fayed and this company called ESTEE. And we jumped on this call together, and he was talking about this agricultural plant production facility, and he wanted to base it in New Mexico. He had a long history with Santa Fe, and he asked if, when they came to town, if I would be willing to meet with them. I said, absolutely, this sounds amazing. Food and food security, and this sounds great. And he came, we had coffee together, and I was instantly really smitten by the vision, by the integrity of the vision. In a few weeks, his Baptiste Kunin, his chief technical officer, was going to be coming, and would I meet with Baptiste? Sure. And we have lots of conversations that never go anywhere at the state, but that's my job, right? Just to entertain and to listen. And when Baptiste came, they had already selected a site in Santa Fe, as Omar mentioned. I said, great, let me help you with this. I pulled in the state land office, I pulled in the city economic development office, and we were off and running, on this plant production facility in the area. And then P&M was going to be the energy partner, and I said, man, that's where it stalled. That's where it was. They were interested in the project, but it was a little bit like fill out weeks. And if you can't tell, this is not a guy who likes to lollygag. I think every time I hear Omar's vision of the world, I wonder why I didn't pay attention in science class. But thank God we have people like Omar. But when things with P&M really stalled, I was crestfallen because by this point I had fallen in love with the project. I had fallen in love with this company, and I thought we're going to lose it. New Mexico was going to lose it because things moved too slowly. And I went to bed rather sad. And I swear I sat up in the middle of the night and said, Kit Carson. Yeah, Omar has to meet Kit Carson. And I called Baptiste the next look. Are you willing to look outside of Santa Fe? And he said, sure. And Baptiste was in town for literally 24 more hours. So I called Luis Reyes and said, this is crazy. I know you're a busy man, but any chance in the next 24 hours you can make some time to meet with this team? And he said, sure. And so Baptiste and I jumped in the car, and it's always fun. He's based in Switzerland, but he's French, so he always shows up with chocolate croissants. So I love traveling with Baptiste. And we jumped in the car and we drove up to meet with what I thought was going to be Luis Reyes. It was Representative Christine Ortega. There was this amazing group of people ready to hear and be receptive. I can say, this area is skeptical. You guys aren't open to just anybody who wants to come in and do something, right? I mean, Jessica Stern said to me, I love this agricultural idea, but I've got traditional farmers, and I don't know if they're on board. And I was like, just hear them out, please just hear them out. And out of that conversation, everybody started to get a sense of what the project was. And it was about complementing traditional farmers. It was about, you guys have a short growing season, tell us what you need. How can we complement?
Can I just jump in on that? I think that one of the things that struck me when I was working on the organic garden farm and orchard project near Madrid, south of Santa Fe, it's co-op, you name it. I went into those stores and I was looking at packaging, and it's like a lot of the basic stuff that, lettuce and real simple vegetables coming from hundreds of miles away. It's like literally hundreds and hundreds of miles away. And by the time I'm really interested in nutrition, food generally, when you fresh, there's nothing like fresh food for a number of reasons. It's not just taste, but it's the nutritional quality within it. And that adds an extra layer of cost, and it takes away a layer of quality. So, this project is unique and helpful in this context, but it's something generally that I'd love to see in and around more remote places and in and around urban ecosystems that are constrained, to pioneer something that can really set off. Things need to be seen to believe, because when we talk about things all day and all night, but until it's done, nobody believes you.
It was interesting the first time that Baptiste came, and we came up to show him the business park area, and me, him, and Paige stopped at Frank's and Tweets, and we had lunch there. And I didn't tell Frank who Baptiste was and what he was doing, but I just asked Frank. We were eating burgers, obviously we were eating burgers or something, and I said, what do you think of your tomatoes and your vegetables? He says, they're absolute crap, but this is what everything I can get. And I said, well, if you had a fresh option to buy fresh tomatoes, would you buy it? He said, yeah. I said, what about the strawberries? He says, yeah, they're okay, but they could be better. So that just right away, that shows that our business owners, our restaurants, could actually use better for our kids, healthier foods. I don't see I think it's a win-win for us.
I think it's pretty cool as well in terms of job creation, the opportunity, and education, because we've done demonstration projects in Switzerland working with not kids, but with university level young people, and having them in and around them. It's so inspiring. if anybody works in agriculture, you know, I mean, and growing up I grew up on a farm, and I was very lucky to be able to tend to fruits and vegetables, and to some degree animals, more on the fruit and vegetable side of things. Those memories are the best memories. And there's just something really peaceful about that, in addition to it being practical.
As a side note, I was talking to Omar, and we were at the business park when he came. We looked over at the school, and I said, "That's the high school over there." And he says, "Well, I don't know if you want me to say this," but Omar says,
Go for it.
just for, as he's been saying tonight, he prefers speaking, but he says, "I'd rather speak to a classroom full of kids and talk to them about their future than I would a room full of investors." You remember telling me that?
I did.
You told me that. I said to your kids, your high school kids anytime, or your.
Yeah, that's true. And I've done it. I love speaking schools. We've got a really cool, through the institute, we've got a very cool connection with the Santa Fe Community College, which I don't know if anybody knows here, but it's just an awesome hub for and education. Yeah, I mean, the challenges that we face are also amazing opportunities. I think the constraints and challenges, they force advancements, innovation. And I had no idea about the housing crisis. I had no idea about, you know, the broader Questa ecosystem. And the more I learn about it, you know, the more I see this is more than just a village. This is a community that's set within this beautiful wilderness that needs to be honored and protected. We can't just be building stuff that's going to be, you know, attracting like traffic and trashing the place. You know, I first and foremost, like, I'm dedicated to our wild wilderness ecosystems, nature. That's it. Everything else comes beyond that, and we need to survive, and we need to transform our industrial culture. So why not do that in the same breath? Can I zoom through the?
Can I just do my comment about that? My name is Councilor-elect Ortega. I'm a resident of Questa, and I live in the trailer. And I heard from you, you said that about what we do. You know, we can afford a trailer, but that's what we can afford. But to have someone come into our hometown, my hometown, and speak to us that way,
I'm really sorry. I didn't mean any offense, number one. And number two, a question. I mean, if you had the opportunity to buy a homestead and to live in a homestead, I mean, I don't assume anything, and I cannot assume anything. And the whole purpose of this forum is for me to learn and for us to learn and have this conversation. So forgive me if you're offended with anything that I said, but I can only imagine, you know, if you would have a home, you know, that four walls that you would, you know.
So I'm a business owner, and I put.
Awesome.
And, you know, to hear someone come up to this, you know, and everybody not have a problem with it.
Yeah.
I definitely have a problem with it. And unfortunately, I couldn't make it at 5 o'clock because I still run a business and I still have work to do.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's an investor or whatever, you know, everybody else.
No,
is.
I totally appreciate it.
So, you know, I had to work, and I apologize for not being there at 5 o'clock. I wish we could have made it at 6 so other people could come. Because I do have other people saying, why is it 5 o'clock? We should have it later because we all have a job.
Yeah.
You know, and I see one of the councilmen, Brent Mills, not here because he's running the county. And, you know, there's people that have jobs in hospitals and stuff that they can't get away.
The reason Brent's not here, and to be honest with you, Councilor-elect the reason I'm the one that had, so if you're going to question the scheduling at 5, I'm the one that scheduled it at 5. The reason I scheduled it at 5 is because.
Are we gonna have another one?
Yes, we'll have more, but the reason I had another obligation at 6, I wanted him to be here for it, but then today he texted me this morning and said I can't make it today after all. If not, it would have been at 6. Originally it was scheduled for 6, but Grant can't make it.
Sorry, your name again, please? Daryl, listen, no offense to you. Your lifestyle choices are beautiful, wonderful in your own unique way. And if I had certain choices to make, that'd be unique to me as well. But, you know, when we're talking about other people, there are other people, zero offense. And actually, I know a whole bunch of people that live in trailers. And if I mention some of them to you, probably, holy shit, he lives in a trailer? Because you would know them, public figures. And it's a lifestyle choice. But when it comes to certain professionals in, you know, just simple as that. And
how big is your development going to be? How many homes are you talking about?
the first rough, we're talking about 60. And that meets certain needs that are pressing and that we've come to learn from Questa's economic development division.
So with 60 homes, I looked into a hotel in Questa, there's no capacity for the sewer, so Mayor Ortega, when you say, we have possibilities to have a hotel here, actually we don't, because we don't have the infrastructure for a hotel.
Actually, we are getting the infrastructure for
We're
it,
getting that, but we don't have it, correct?
but by the time it's built, we will have it.
So say somebody wanted to build a hotel today, we don't have the infrastructure, correct?
We would have it, yes.
We'll have it today, we'll have it.
And
Somebody's
also,
capable of building a hotel and having it all reliable.
part of our expertise as well is in wastewater treatment and management. That's what we do. That's what we did before any kind of housing project. I worked in commercial real estate development in another life, refurbing commercial buildings with high spec and low cost, environmental, ecological components that would make them less expensive and more ecologically friendly and happier places to live in. But I'm sorry that I offended you with that notion. It's completely misplaced and taken the wrong way. I didn't mean, and that's super cool. I love that. And if you're happy with that, yay.
So I know construction also, I'm an electrical contractor, my brother's a plumbing contractor, have a excavation license for 31 years. So I do understand construction also.
Awesome.
So that's why I know the septic sewer system in the village is not capable right now of holding a hotel or 60 homes, for that. But that's something down the road.
But that's why we need comments and contributions like this.
Okay, for that.
Thank you as well. So Solid share a few things. Do you want me to manage some of the slides?
Sure. We could jump to the end and I can talk about this and then we can go back to.
Just.
Okay.
And
So,
Karen, could you give just a little bit of context of who you are, how you got to this point, and
absolutely.
how you got attached to this project and all that good stuff?
Yeah, it's a story. Well, hi, I'm Aaron Rose. I'm a co-founder of a 501c3 charity called In Our Hands. And also a co-founder of a new entity called Solid, which I'll talk about here. But the context of how I ended up in college together with a couple of transfer students back east, and we both had a mutual passion around renewable energy and climate stuff. So we decided as we graduated to found a 501c3 together that was focused on doing renewable energy infrastructure in rough places. Let's just put it that way. And we started by, we put in a solar panel installation on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota, which I don't know how familiar people are with it, but it's a very, very, very difficult place. And as we were out there doing our initial project, we started hearing about the state of the housing situation in Pine Ridge. It's pretty bad. There's folks living 30 people in a single wide trailer, and these trailers specifically are like hand-me-downs from FEMA, so like homes that get sent up to Pine Ridge, so a lot of them are missing walls, missing windows, stuff that is really not healthy or acceptable in a place that dips down to like minus 55 degrees some nights on the reservation. And so we had a partner out there, his name was Henry Redcloud, here, and we're hearing these stories about how the propane company won't deliver propane to these houses unless it's a minimum $500 charge or something, and it's very economically challenged area as well. And so we started hearing stories about grandma, 20 people in the house, can't afford to pay for propane. Grandma dies in the house, then the grandkids fucking, I looked at each other and we said, not in our world. So we went to Henry and we said, what do you need? And Henry said, we need housing that's energy efficient enough that if it dips down to minus 55 degrees at night in December, you could pack 5-7 people inside of a shelter and their body heat would be enough to help them weather the evening. And he said also these structures, just shelters at this point, not. Jason and I both were transfer students. We had construction backgrounds before we went back to school. And we both studied hard sciences where we went to school. And so we kind of put our heads together with our construction background and did some research and found that there was nothing that was going to be viable to do a $20,000 structure that's going to have good enough insulation to keep people warm just from their body heat when it's minus 55 outside. So we were casting about trying to find something, we couldn't find it. We ended up eventually stumbling on this material.
Can I show some slides on the?
Well, we just have the panels up there, so I'll tell you exactly when that. But we stumbled on this material, which is called aircrete. But this, we call it cellular concrete because it's, a lot of people make aircrete with like Dawn dish soap and stuff like that, and it's not, not appropriate surfactants. And we thought, wow, this is strong enough to be structural, but it's also its own insulation at the same time. And we thought, wow, if we could build a shelter out of this with a 15-inch thick wall, it'd be, it could retain heat from the day, but also keep the heat from going out. And so over the years, we built them around the country, many of them like 18 feet tall, 18 feet wide. And the dome specifically was chosen because it maximizes the interior space versus the surface area. And some of these ones that we built on Pine Ridge, I've got data we collected where you have 700 watts, the size of a regular space heater, goes down to minus 55 outside at night. We thought, wow, okay, we did it. We figured out a way to provide shelter. Subsequently, we got asked to come down to New Mexico and build a few of these domes here. And then we got a call from a gentleman named Eric Vasquez, who is the executive director of the Northern Rio Grande National Heritage Area. They're the ones that do those like Landwater People Time magazines that you see everywhere. And he said, could you come down here and see if you could build with this material, but more in the cultural, architectural language of this area. And he said, I'll incentivize you guys to come down. He was able to convince Senator Heinrich to help put some earmarks and some bills to attract us down. We moved to Taos. We're from all over. I'm a Colorado boy. But we moved to Taos and we started for the area with the goal being something that is inexpensive, but also like very long lasting, right? So a structure that, you could have raised generations in. And also not expensive, but also reduce the carrying cost of having, keep your utility bills lower because people don't think about it. They think about, oh, what does it cost to buy a house? And they realize, oh, I got this $700, heating bill or whatever. And so, whatever it is, depending on the area. But we figured, okay, let's try this. And that's when I met, I've been working with Mark for a couple of years, and we've gotten the material approved through the New Mexico Construction Industries with an architect as a structural material. Not that we're going to rely on that, but it is approved as a structural material here in New Mexico. And we did build 4 of these domes, and we got building permits, all phases of inspection, got the COs, did the domes, but then we moved on to this more square thing. And that's when I met Rob. He's a Taos local, graduated high school here before being a crab boat captain in Alaska for many, many years. He was like, hey, if you're doing squares, why are we forming up all these concrete forms? And we could go for to the panel slide now. Keep going. There. He said, you've been this time. And it's anyone who's in the construction business knows that forming stuff up, takes time to put it up, takes time to put it down, and it's terrifying anytime you're pouring concrete, So Rob said, why don't we put these on our side, make these panels that are 8 foot by 8 foot. The material is light enough that you can still pick it up with a telehandler, and do 15-inch thick wall, concrete and insulation, at least in the walls. We're only looking at walls right now, eventually roof panels, potentially, but that's much more complicated. But these panels, you cast them on their side on a big plastic sheet, so you can throw your plaster down horizontally, and you get a really nice finish that way. And then you let that harden up a little bit, you shoot the cellular in there, you let that harden up, you do your exterior stucco horizontally as well, saving a whole lot of time. Anyone in the construction industry knows that too. We can cast all the MEPs, that's mechanical, electrical, and plumbing components, into the walls so that they click together, which just enables people in the specialized trades to get more done. because they spend a little bit less time on it, and boom, 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 boom. We can put the windows and doors in there. It's completely fireproof. I mentioned its energy efficiency. Again, we're going to manufacture them and ship them to the job site. Our intent is, if this moves forward, really focus on hiring local subs and everything to get everything done by people who live here in Questa. And then this groove profile is the last thing I'll mention. You might wonder what that is. Well, as I said, everyone knows how much time it takes to form up, form work, and then pull it down. So you go to the next slide. Everyone's seen this. You got 2 months in this thing where you got guys out there putting these things up, and then you got the hydraulic head and you're pumping all the concrete in there, and all of a sudden the exploder goes and has a beer, so they stop shaking, and then you got another couple weeks taking this all down. So the idea is this. We can go to the next slide. Those grooves, you pour the foundation, traditional foundation, and the grooves in it create a stay in place formula. It's like a giant fossil, essentially. So what we do is we put them all up, all around, and then you call the pump truck in and you fill those grooves. And at the end of the day, you're making a skeleton inside of it that's steel reinforced. That's basically like it's a moment frame. So engineers understand this. You're ready to get the roof on, and you do traditional roof. Everything else is like, traditional trades. So there's, it's not like it's replacing everything. And then you gotta, in theory, Rob thinks, I don't know, but let's say you got your walls up and you got your finishes done, and your chases and bucks and everything in there in a matter of maybe 5 days or something, and then you can move on to the other tricks. So
how much concrete does a standard 3-bedroom house take?
Well, it's, as people can see, this stuff is mostly air. So we're actually just dealing with Portland cement. The way we make it is we have a machine that makes a lather. And we chose this lather specifically to be the only one that we could find in the country that has absolutely no issues. Firefighter, paramedic. We all know what happened with the PFAS that was in the foam that the firefighters were using and everything. So we made very conscious decisions to find a foam that was basically got the same stuff in it as shampoo. And then you mix the Portland cement with the water, you create a slurry, you inject this foam into it. It makes this crazy cakey sort of material that then hardens into what I handed you guys today. I would say let me do some math. Depends on the size of the house, and I could answer that question. Say a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. I'll do that while Mark's presenting.
You can say that.
So you can see on that panel, the picture of the panel, the bond beam on the top is casted as well, so the metal will be horizontally as well as vertically down these sides. So as those come together, you have these pillars. On my house, I'm building one of these houses now. I cast mine because we were ready to do the panels, but it was about 6 yards of concrete for the bond beam and the pillars, and that's a 2,000 square foot house.
Well, you were in about 11 yards of Portland for the 2,000 square house, right? That's what that is.
Yeah.
Right?
Can I ask a question I haven't asked before, guys? With this technique, this method, what is your expected lifespan of the structure?
I mean, it's like, this is a mineral. It's like concrete. So you keep it dry. And I think it's going to stick around for a long time. One thing also about this is it's impregnated with air bubbles. In Canada, when they pour driveways, they entrain them with air. So that, question.
I have a question for you.
Sorry.
So in traditional home form field, what more energy efficient is this than that? And what is the cost of putting up a wall? You make a simple wall, 100-foot wall. In comparison, what's the difference in price? Because home form, we've been putting up here in Taos County, Green Fire for years.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think the savings comes in terms of the speed that it can be done.
Well, I can build a cabin on home form.
Yeah.
Me and my son and another person, we put up 24 by 28 foot walls, and we were done in 3 days.
Nice.
Grouted, formed, everything, it's 1 day strip. So that's 4 days. You're gonna be trucking this stuff in from outside. I mean, so you're gonna have transportation coming in, And that's all kind of curious, what's the difference in savings, and energy savings when you're done with it? How much per square foot are you talking this stuff versus smart block or traditional, building?
It should be less expensive. But we're not planning on dropping it in, we're planning on making it here in Questa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have consulted with the mayor about potentially utilizing may I speak about that?
We have a couple of buildings or potential, we have I don't know if it's public yet, but the business park buildings can be available.
So I would say let me,
So this is gonna be another contractor coming in, not our contractor.
We would prefer to have come in here with our formwork that lays horizontally, and employ people from Questa, teach them how to make these things, and then hopefully make it like another cottage industry that can exist around here. Essentially, Questa could supply southern Colorado, the Pioneer Valley there with these panels. So essentially, you would have a production facility.
Well, I was curious about Salt Concrete, I have all of that. That very and I was curious, what's the difference in price on building, because that's basically all the locals, I mean, are we building houses here for the local people, or are we building houses for people coming in from outside?
Yeah, we're gonna lose our little village because sitting in this room, I mean, we are rooted here. When you say we're rooted here, our families are from nowhere else. I see faces, very few that are from here. So are we turning our village into something where you guys are running away from? Because that's our fear.
No, it's only gonna be for, I mean, we're.
Well, that's what something that's gonna cost. Let's be honest with you, locals, which we have a few here,
Yeah.
when you're looking at spending $200,000 on a house, you're gonna spend $500,000 on a house, it's the same square footage. Which way are we gonna go?
Here, can I talk for a minute? Sure. So the way we're doing it would be using local hire, we need heavy equipment, we're gonna need graders, we're gonna need roads built, we're gonna need all that traditional stuff, all of those things. And so then we're gonna have people that we need trades to do the foundations, the slabs, so we have slabs. As soon as the slabs are in place, these panels will show up, they get moved in, which 1,000 square foot house, we do that in a day. These walls will be done, that means no sheathing, no framing, no sheathing, no insulation, no vapor barrier, no drywall, no primer, no paint. I'm not saying I want to cut all these trades out, because these are hybrids, because the inside of the houses, we still need framers. Traditional plumbing walls, we need framers, we would need the sheet rock. So there's still room for all the trades.
Roofing.
The question I'm asking, maybe I'm misstating it wrong. What's the difference in price? I'm not saying, I don't disagree with the process, I don't disagree with any of that. I'm just curious, you guys looking at $150 a square foot?
Yeah.
To build, you're looking at $500 a square foot.
Closer to the first number.
Okay,
We're shooting, we're like.
We made sure that things are aligned with
No,
the existing route, yeah.
That's gonna be the big factor, you're be honest with everybody,
That's
better than $700 a square foot.
No, yeah.
You're leaving the locals out.
Yeah.
It's
And
not
you're
gonna
gonna
be
be down to the lower areas, no way bringing the locals in.
I'll tell you right now, and I'm not saying I would not bring this project to bring in.
Well, it's just.
No, but you guys know, do you think I really want to bring in?
We're fearful.
No, but do you
60
really think,
houses is a lot of
do you really want to think I want to bring 60 outsiders?
It's a question for sure.
It's a good question.
How many locals do we have in play for that?
But that's not nothing we have control over.
Yeah, but we have to go here, I think that's what our fear is.
It's a legitimate fear, it's real, it's for real.
That's not, like I say, how many of our kids can come back and afford a house?
Oh, no, we know that.
We're looking at $200,000. We're looking at $200,000 for a house here, when we're looking at, and I'm not, my girlfriend is on the way trade too. And my brother lives on Seaway, my mom passed away, but you're looking at houses like that, don't pay Seaway, it's plus an hour. That's only for $350,000.
We know, our daughter just moved back home,
Yeah.
and has to do the same thing.
So I'd say if we're having somebody offering us an opportunity to build or buy houses at $200,000.
And that was the reason.
And I'm not saying that's good, but-
How much per square foot are we looking
Yeah,
at?
because we do want to make sure that our people are taken care of.
Just
So
like
we
those
do
next
have
one,
to
the
make
fucking people who struck with it. When you get a square footage, I know that's finished.
I'm actually building a CETA in Taos out in the field. Because as we know, in the trade state, you gotta do it. You know, I mean, before you really know there's no revenge. And I just had a little boy, my first one. I'm gonna be raising my kid.
Congratulations.
Thank you, I appreciate that. So I'm testing it out myself, and you guys can all come down and take a look. I mean, hopefully the permit's gonna be done in, on waiting.
What's the R value on a 16-inch wall?
16-inch wall?
That's what you're saying.
15 inches.
50.
Yeah, the R value is like about 23, but it's, it's considered by code, right? It's considered a mass wall, so it's more of a wall, the regime of timber houses or masonry houses, because the material's actually, it's light, it's only 35 pounds a cubic foot, so it'll float on water, but it's massive enough that like it retains the heat. So I think the code in this zone for a mass wall, it needs to be like our 14 or 15, something like that. So we're like, without having it above the code for a mass wall. I mean, I always gotta make sure to explain that.
Yeah.
So,
I just wanted to just answer your question about the walls and the difference between box blocks and so forth. This system is going to be a very different system that you're going to put it up, and it's going to have, when it's ultimately worked out, a finished interior and a finished exterior there. So there's going to be no stucco and no plaster. Maybe we're still working on it. We will be able to do that. Yeah, that's the difference. So that radically brings it down. I just want to both my mother and father were divorced. Both of them lived in trailers separately. You know, I'm a nationally board certified architect. I stood in front of a commission meeting with in Taos County in Lower Las Columbus. Do you know R.C. Gordon's complex down by the Blue Flag? I was the contractor and the architect for that. We were told, you'll never get that done. They can't do the septic on that system. We got approved and built a system that treated all the water for 120 students, plus the teachers. All the water was recycled, purified, brought back. Nothing went into the water table. We got it up and running, and then the funder of that project died in a private jet crash. And that's when I got hired to teach at the University of New Mexico. When I started, because with my construction company, not that anyone cares, I grew up without a bedroom. I slept on the couch. I had a pillow and a blanket. I had a good life. It was fine, but I went to architecture school and was told, you're only going to design houses for rich people. I went to Boston. I worked on, some of the wealthiest people in the country's houses back day where, ultimately I got married. I got married with a gold gilt, ballroom, for children. And I ended up in New Mexico in 1988, not knowing a soul. If you know the Dream Tree project, which is started in 1999, I went off to doing a multi-million-dollar Adobe house with a 60-foot swimming pool inside that, garage with lifts for the Ferrari collection. That was my first introduction in Mexico. I wanted to do projects to help the community. So I just want to say that we did that system. We got it approved. It worked with the water. Omar doesn't know this. I worked with Los Alamos Labs. I got 2 cycles of grant funding to do commercial facilities, laundromats, so forth, that recycle all the water, which hasn't been done. So we have systems at my house. If you open up my septic system in my house, it doesn't smell because it's purified to tertiary standards. Because I didn't have money, like most architects, I started a commercial construction company. And I'm doing right now, I'm also a contractor for the Nest project. So all I want to say is that I feel glad I'm the architect for this project in that my job and as a representative of Omar, my job is to get things done that don't exist. And I'm a nice guy, everyone, some of these people that aren't Questa locals are friends of mine that came up here. But they'll attest, I just thought we needed, instead of working on a house with, that has a 5-car garage with a hydraulic lift for their Ferraris and bring their, starlets to swim in Taos. Someone said they needed a homeless shelter for abused, neglected, and addicted teens. And I spent 20 fucking years doing that. And it's now published by the Princeton Press. And if nothing else, I could stand up and say we have done. I'm a commercial contractor. We sort of with blood, sweat, and tears approach the building. And I think Omar probably couldn't find a more different architect, more different background. But I don't even know if he read my bio, and I put all that just thinking that he wouldn't choose me. It was more of a test, And so I think what, I'm a white guy, I'm not here, but I'm from Tucson, Arizona. I'm a Southwesterner. My mother prayed for me and was building a chapel and had kids. I've worked all over the country, and I met my wife who had connections here. And we know that we have to, you'll see some plans. Actually, can you go to the slide of just the first slide of the renderings? These are all my drawings, forget that. The site's going to change, but.
Tell me when to stop.
Yeah, that's.
Mr. Goldman?
What we're talking
Mr.
about.
Goldman, excuse me, can you move your water bottle? It's fine, you almost tipped it over twice. It's been bugging me, I'm sorry.
I do know that, we what Aaron will, we went to the state of New Mexico, met with the construction industries. We did get this material approved for use. Our understanding, we think it's the only state where it's approved for use. The Martino Romero, the head of CID, he really rose up. It was an intense meeting, and at that point, it was being done on the turn of the Mayo Park Ranch, another 16,000 acres. So I have feet in two worlds in that I've worked at the very most expensive end in Boston. I did the house way back. I designed, if you remember, Governor Gary Johnson. He bought the house that I designed in the Mesquite, and he brags about that he designed it. I designed the house, up there it shows. But I've worked at the highest end, but I feel the need is for workforce housing. I'm on the board of the Taos Housing Partnership. The other answer to your question is these houses have to come in. So someone who makes between, whatever, 60 and 120% of the area median income will qualify for these houses, or I will be a failure, or they will be a failure, or won't do it. So
I'll take it.
but that's what we're talking about. I think it is. I come from a belief. We just. I've been. These drawings right here. The team that he's assembled. I did these drawings were done yesterday afternoon. They were sent to Switzerland. They were formatted in Switzerland. When I went to bed, I sent them off, came up this morning and coming back. He's got the team ready to do this. But yeah, and I'll say, and I think you remember the Carlton Match project, which was proposed on the Sea Valley Road, my backyard. We were talking about, this is a very different thing. He didn't come here intending to do housing initially. I know, I'm on the, I'm full-time, full faculty lecturer for UNM in the construction department. And one of the things we're looking at, I help train people for construction jobs. This is what we're looking at is trying to increase the economic opportunities, not to bring outside people in here. And, I think that also what my values, what I've always tried to do and what I have, and I still, because I'm the contractor and the architect building the homeless shelter with federal and state funds. And due to decisions beyond me, and I worked on the original Community Against Violence, where they brought in big commercial contractors from out of all from Albuquerque and so forth, come in, they get their paycheck, and then they leave, and all the money bounces into us on Friday afternoon, and bounces out. We're not doing that, and that's what I did at the Dream Tree. I said, so I'm the advocate, I'm gonna be the anti-advocate to Omar, but I think we have a trust, and I think that, I'm just up here saying that there's some reality. It's not all nice dreams and thinking that, you know, yeah, but, you know, look at this pie in the sky thing, you know. Yeah.
So question is this what is going to be built out there?
Yeah, these are some,
So back to the question, so what is it going to cost? What is it sold for?
the best that we can say is we're still in development. And the idea for tonight was to talk to the people that might be buying this houses and see what people wanted. But the mandate is to look at, and someone here should know more than, what is the area median income for Questa? You know, it's probably
32,000.
Okay, so if that's an area median, the Taos Housing Partnership has some potential subsidies to work with this, but our goal is to come up with houses that sell to someone who makes somewhere between 80 and 100% of the area median. That's why we can't say a figure. It's not, Baptiste is not here. He said over and over that people are gonna, and it's like, he's saying, how are people gonna know that we're not gonna build these houses? And people say, oh, I could buy a nice vacation house in Questa from that. So we have to work with legal, we have our deed restrictions and we have to work that, but yeah, and that's where, so that what the other reason why I think, why I'm glad, and as I can see this being a disastrous evening with a New York architect or something, you know, coming in here, is that we want to work with this, with available state subsidies, really maximizing that. I think if you have a concrete plant, seeing that if we have a wall panel that has a finished exterior and a finished interior and just pops up, then all of a sudden that competes or even beats these 3D printed houses, which aren't working anyways in this environment. But there's, you know, behind the scenes, I think it wasn't clearly enough expressed, and we still, with these deed restrictions, just to show you how fast this went today, I think was today, we just got word that Chevron signed over the land. Yesterday, I got the survey from
So has that been sold?
it's been,
They've agreed to sell it in principle.
they've agreed to sell. So they've agreed to sell it, but we just got the survey, but I'm not, as the architect of record, I have legal liabilities. I have to follow every state law, but we're not gonna, we can't do something that it would be career suicide to design something to show you something that couldn't be done.
Can I just add something, Mark, to that? And beyond that, the purpose of this evening is also checking in with everybody here.
Yeah.
By the way, you're speaking to somebody that, you know, I might as well freaking crash in a UFO ship in Roswell as far as an outsider goes.
Yeah.
But, you know, just to level this conversation, you're speaking to a human being and one that's dedicated to the protection of not only the wilderness ecosystem and environment. That's my passion, that's my love, that's my dedication to this life, but to the communities.
Well, like your passion is that our passion is that we are not from anywhere else. This is you're really touching a very special area.
Yeah.
Our families are only from here.
Yeah.
When you decided this doesn't work out, you leave out where you're from, we're still here. We're not going anywhere. You
100%. 100%.
Ma'am, can I say something to you? I'm with the state. I'm expert in nothing. I'm expert in absolutely nothing. But I'm sorry? No, I'm a low level, I influence no policy. But thank you, maybe one day. But I just want to say, I love you all and I love this. This is the purpose of this, is to come here and to hear what your concerns are. I love this area. I love your love for your families, for your heritage, for this place. I love your passion. And I'm hearing a lot of questions like, is this what's that? Is this, there's not a pen in anything. There is absolutely nothing about this that is done, that is solid, that is being imposed on you. And I can tell you right now, they will walk away if this isn't beneficial to the lives of the people that live here. And so I would encourage you to think about this as a conversation. What do you need? What do you want? What adds value to your lives?
And also, can you help? Can you get involved? This is a discovery exploration. My mandate and my commitment is not to do anything with anybody that's not benefiting from this
Well, I would
project.
love to be involved, and I think the locals here would like to be involved.
Beautiful.
We've seen it many times, that these organizations start up, and then all of a sudden, there's nobody that's a local participating in it. And decisions that we're having to deal with are being
That's
made,
the
we have no
best.
say so.
That's
But,
right.
you know,
Well, I would love to be involved.
that's super cool. And
I got a question for Gabe. You know, we were involved in Questa Business, and that's how Chevron said they were gonna divest their properties. And when the properties came up for sale, we went to an agent, and came to the board, and Mascareñas, you guys bought some, I bought some, they were offered to the locals. Just, you know, why was this piece of property treated different? Because, you know, I mean, like you said, for our generations, and who we are and how long we've been here, I think the thing Chevron should have done is go to the Young's family first to see if they wanted to buy it. Because that's you guys' father. You know, he raised his kids there. Might have said this, go through there, I was a neighbor to the west. You know, these guys don't live too far, I was almost a neighbor to the east. And nobody talked to the neighbors. And I don't think anybody talked to the government, because I think they're still in the cattle business, they might want that back. You know, instead of building a whole bunch of houses on it. You know, I'm just.
yeah, it's a super fair point. I had no idea about that.
You know, and it's like, I've kind of seen a bit of your layout. I don't think that's ever gonna work, but
That's awesome. We need to hear that.
I have a septic system that goes through there. You can't build or cover or do anything to those ditches.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, with the survey, it's probably gonna be flipped with the housing on the opposite side. But also, this meeting is just to hear the community.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think we should have got to keep this family first.
So if your houses are gonna be on the south side of the ditch, what do you plan to do with it on the north side of that ditch?
No, I think after the surveys and these, I think we're actually, after this, we're gonna, what I see is the plan is gonna be flipped with the housing on the north side of the ditch, and then they have a solar panel.
There should be a ditch that goes right through the middle of that mark.
This is super cool. And the purpose of the meeting.
On the north side of that.
Yeah.
And there's a ditch that runs through there. And they tried putting a berm on it, or we don't get it on another ditch, it's not working. So I'm gonna have to run my ditch back from, behind Patricios, back to the end of that property next to that sawmill.
So going forward, talking to the Meyer Bill and seeing what has to be reserved for safety, that takes, in the Mexico law, that takes precedence over everything else. So we, you know, we worked out, when we're talking about, we have our house layouts, we're working with the systems. The design is fluid, it's now on, we have this computer software program that can, you know, work out, move houses around. We got the information, which I have now, the survey I got 2 days ago, has your ditches. So.
Right.
I just got a question. Are these going to be green energy homes? That's the idea, right? To make it more energy efficient, more cost efficient. So I guess like for the aesthetics and what I can do, my vision, flat roof or pitched roofs, covenants, all that kind of stuff. I I can see coming out of more meetings and everything else. But how does this tie into your greenhouse and the food production?
Good question, yeah.
Because, from looking at it from the aspect from our school system, we're looking to build new schools here. And the reality is our student population has dwindled. And without some sort of project coming to get more folks to move here, to bring their children to be raised here, our school, we have to design it for the size of the student body that we have. So I'm looking at this thinking, well, we do need some housing for teachers, that's for sure. Because kind of the deal we got now is we've had these trailer homes already for what would you say, 20 years at least. And I don't want to be a slumlord, but we don't have a lot of money to reinvest into these dinosaurs for efficiency. I know they all literally replace you name it, it's probably got an issue. A 20-year-old trailer. And once again, no disrespect, if I was looking to buy a double wide trailer, because that's what I could afford until I had another one got my head. I'm very fortunate for that. But when we're looking at the global effect of a project this size, 60 homes, 60 families potentially, we're making it available for teachers, specifically what I'm looking at, or I'm the marshal for town Red River, so for a lot of us to be able to afford a home is huge. I know there's no home there, but Red River's talking about a development for affordable housing. That's the buzzword, and there's money from the state that's going to be doled out, but probably fall in line there to get that funding. It's not a question. But are these things, say the school says, hey, I really like the idea. We have property when we do our design for the new school. I'm really interested in the efficiency of these walls because I would rather figure out a way for less cost.
Totally.
And because we do have a problem here, it never used to be, especially with the local buildings, you didn't need an air conditioner in your house. Now this climate has changed. Now you do need an air conditioner in your house. I know what the cost of propane is to keep my own house. So we're looking at a commercial building, and I can see there's room for collaboration with you guys. But I don't know, like I said, it had to be proposed to the board, but I wouldn't mind hearing more about it, square footage, for some future
100%.
housing to kind of kick it off. Because we gotta do something. I mean, we're at a point where we're going to, we passed, I think everybody voted for the GO1 because it was needed. But that's what we're looking at in the school district. But we gotta do something to teacher housing, so how it works out, I don't know. Well, this is all preliminary discussions. I think we look where I kind of like the Southwestern design, but that's not a traditional home for this area.
This area.
On a pitched roof here, like, well, we know how the problem start with a flat roof, so we want this thing to fall off. Yeah,
But that's what we need to hear.
but I did also work for my dad. My dad did in construction 30 years, and that restaurant block, the hummus blocks and all that, newer stuff that will not be germane to the native culture of where we come from, because that's all kind of new earth ships. It's kind of what I think of when I talk.
Oh no.
And it's talking, and it's, it's far from that, but I was looking at that construction and how efficient it is, and how you don't have a landfill, you don't have a water bill.
That's the idea.
Your whole ecosystem is run by rainwater. And they're in the desert part for good luck finding water in the well.
That would be my dream personally, ultimately in my life, is to ultimately end up at a house that is inexpensive, that basically it's almost like you're living on the International Space Station. It collects rainwater, it gets reused, it's got solar panels, you don't need infrastructure. That would be like, if I was
And I've
lucky
seen
to
so
do that.
many
and have
concern
money,
at these from people that I talk to about different housing developments, is like, man, say there be an energy project comes. It is coming, from what I understand. I don't know the details of it, but bringing 300 jobs. Well, those 300 jobs are going to disappear once that, just like the solar arrays, they'll hire locals and they can find them. But the reality is, good luck finding a workforce here to flip burgers in the restaurant, you know? But I really think that there's a good way for us to move forward because we need the housing, whether people agree with me or not. I can tell you from the trade that I work in, my profession, and the need for teachers, the need for nurses, everything. If they could find a place to live that's reasonably affordable for them, they'll move here. They really don't care. They're just looking for somewhere to call home at this point. But I think like what Juan told me one time, well, what about when that project ends and then we get all these abandoned houses that we can't sell? That's kind of a.
See, even initially now, right now, when grant came in, it took rents, it skyrocketed, right? So it's like good for the landlord, if you're gonna get $1,200, $1,500 for your house, well, that's good for them, but then when the kid graduates and then they don't have a baby or whatever they have for.
Yes, exactly.
You know, and we're there right now, what's for sale is ridiculously priced already. And then it's like, you bring in those hydrogen folks, that amount of contractors, the rents and that stuff is just gonna keep climbing. Then the project to this magnitude, until it's done, it's gonna keep going. So I think it's gonna force both of us to try to send our children out of town. And really give them a reason to stay here. You know, that's the reason our school is where it's at. Is because we kind of cater to the needs of others.
But if we don't do a housing project, then how do we fix that? We know grant is not going away. I mean,
It's hard for me to think about.
what goes first, the chicken or the egg? How many of your kids can move back to Questa affordably?
I think the people that are here that want to be working, they're working. The people that want to stay here, they figure a way. You know, it's like, we're not losing a whole bunch of people. You know, we're not big.
But how about all the people that have moved away because they didn't have a job here that want to come back?
That's been years ago already. You know?
Yeah, I know several people.
What job will come back? What job will you have after this housing?
That's right, we're working on that.
You know, I contracted for all those years. I'm supposed to come back to stay here. Anybody that wants to do that is gonna come here and figure a way out.
Not without housing, they're not.
We're not so helpless. That's my opinion.
How did you determine 60 houses as opposed to maybe 20 or 30 to start out with? Why 60?
We're totally flexible, but I mean, there's something to be said about the scale and the urgency in the housing crisis from what we've gathered. But at the end of the day, at the beginning of the next, we're here to hear, I'm here, we are here, I can speak on that note, to hear from you guys, you know, what do you want? And this is all on paper. This can all change, the plan, layout, the style, everything. I mean.
And what's the lot size that the house will be on? A full acre, half an acre, 3/4?
If I'm not
Has that been determined?
How many years are there?
86.
86, but we haven't bought the land. I mean, ultimately it's your land and we're here to add value and help with, you know, you said you're not helpless. I love that and I admire that. And, you know, we're not here to disturb anything or to do anything that is contrary to and against your human spiritual interests at all. I like this meeting is preliminary because we wanted to hear and be able to refine this project and define it according to what you want, what you need. But if there's nothing that you want or need here, then why am I here? Don't need to be here. I'm not determined to just build houses and sell them. I've got, dignity, and I'm not here to screw anybody over. I'm not here to just rug pull. I'm here to build relationships and to get to know you guys. And also, I love New Mexico. I feel very lucky to have discovered Questa. I never planned on coming here. It's I feel it's a blessing.
Something that hasn't been said, Omar, and I don't know that you're going to say this. He's not looking to turn a profit on any of these houses. He wants to make enough money to pay his taxes and be completely open and transparent about how much did this house cost to build and what is it. So this is not a money-making venture. This is a venture of investment in your community, and you haven't said that, but.
So, back to the original question, Jason or somebody asked, how does the housing tie into the food? How do you have that?
Well, but this story is a little bit along the lines of Omar was looking to do his plant production facility, right? Which, if I may, I call a plant, and I think it seemed like the relationship with Kit Carson was going to work out because he was going to be making solar power. And I think the community itself, our leaders in the community, identified housing as a need. At which point Omar said, well, I'm willing to help with that. And again, I will emphasize that what Paige just said, that I spent 7 years of my life building shelters on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation on a charitable basis to the point where I got a lot less money than I had 7 years ago. And my dedication is for quality affordable housing. And I wouldn't be in this room or involved with this project if there wasn't this commitment. I got excited about it because they said it's going to be an open book. We'll show the community, and it's going to be sold back to the community at cost, covering for taxes and and so as Paige just said, that was one of the hooks that brought me involved in this whole thing.
So what's first, the housing or the?
Housing. But sorry.
And I may also just add that I want to emphasize something that just got put on the table a second ago, because it was just a brief interaction there. Omar said we're flexible. I mean, we're not saying it's got to be 60 houses, right? I mean, there's the ability to structure this whole thing in such a way that we get to know each other in a more phased sort of operation. So, all of a sudden, like checks and balances and milestones.
But we can't invest the resources in design and planning, etc., to build two houses. That's just doesn't make sense.
And the 60 number was somewhat informed by the report that was done by the Taos Housing Partnership too, just about the dearth of houses in the region. I think we initially started talking about 10. So it came out of at least a preliminary understanding of community need. And you guys are obviously going to tell us what we didn't know, but that was where it came from, was from Taos Housing Partnership. How many houses are we short? What do you need for your schools? What are you going to need for the green hydrogen plant? And how can we help? So that number is to some extent arbitrary, except it has to make sense.
Another question I have is, okay, let's say this project gets approved, we move forward, we're looking for local contractors. A lot of the times our contractors cannot meet the liability insurance involved. I don't know the proper term for it, but two of them have to come together to be able to complete a project, or somebody from out of town, just like you said, the contractor from Albuquerque came in and did. That happened to us with San Antonio del Rio Colorado, one of our projects. The insurance was too high that our local contractors couldn't meet it. There was a contractor from Rio Rancho that came in that did a lousy job, and we're still paying to correct his actions. So, how can we make this affordable for the local contractors to be able to afford that liability insurance?
Is that a state liability insurance?
Help me out, somebody.
That was with completion bonding.
You're talking about general liability
Yeah.
bonding?
Yeah,
It
that.
was-
You guys have requirements already for what you guys are looking at, or you guys will be doing it as a homeowner build and subcontracting it out?
Well, I would approach it that way. I would approach it that contractors would be responsible for their insurance.
So you're requiring a performance and bid bond?
No, I think it's more like a residential build.
Just a regular bond.
Just a regular standard license bond?
Bond and liability.
Because you're not taking on the responsibility of this development,
Yeah.
you're taking on the responsibility of this house,
Yeah.
one house.
The question I got, I apologize for being late, I was here again, but I still don't know what that is. I have no idea what they're about. Isn't that gonna be built in create jobs?
Yeah.
I apologize, I wasn't here.
So we've discovered a number of different ways of growing food crops, plant crops, using very little water and very high quality. And ultimately, the purpose of that is to provide high quality food crops for the local community, period. And in no way to compromise the existing agricultural ecosystem and community and commitment to farmers, etc., but to complement that. And in addition to that, that might cross over and be synergistic and work together with the existing. That might, be limited by growing seasons. We're not going to build some kind of giant factory thing sticking out the ground. The whole project is designed to fit and flow with the landscape and terrain.
Well, I guess what I was confused is where does Kit Carson come into this? Is it growing, being farmed?
Well, because initially we needed energy to be able to supply the factory. So that's where Kit Carson came into play.
So the factory, are we talking about like a warehouse, or we talking a greenhouse?
Both, actually.
And how big is the greenhouse supposed to, how many acres?
It sits on half an acre. But the whole thing with this project is that, it's scalable. We can scale it up, we can scale it down, and hopefully this will create new opportunities beyond what we're talking about here.
How do you do that?
It depends on the scale and size. As it stands now, in terms of operating it, probably about 30.
Can I add?
But
to this?
that might not include, distribution, secondary industries which might come up and rise from that, packaging, other food products. I mean, I just heard today that Taos Bakes is leaving. I was super sad because obviously that was a cool thing to have in the business park there. But,
So what kind of jobs, what kind of incomes these jobs gonna, I'm not saying exact, but, overall, 30 employees at 40,000 a year, 50, 60?
I would say within that range. Yeah, from like senior management to hands-on operators.
What do you think, what was the deciding factor that housing should come before that?
I had no idea that, there was such a shortfall. Sorry, your name, please?
Jason.
Jason mentioned, with teachers, but with conversations I had with Mayor Ortega, and Luis was championing this a lot. And that really struck me, the lack of housing for first responders, whether firefighters, medics, paramedics, police officers. But that extends to education and, homes for the community here beyond that. So those needs are obviously first and foremost. I obviously am looking at it originally from a different perspective in terms of agriculture. And, this is something that, if we can succeed in doing here, we've already tried and tested the technology and the techniques in other places, including, just 15 miles south of Santa Fe in a really extreme arid region. And it works and it's cool and it's not high tech, it's good tech. And the product's great. So why the housing first? Because that's what we're discovering is more urgent, and it complements everything else that we're doing.
With the plant production facility, which has taken a back seat, but they have reached out to TCEDC. They want to work with all the local agricultural groups and facilities. I have helped make contacts at SIDS and also with the local market here, local farmer groups. Now, we haven't gone very far with this because it's taken a back seat, but the approach of hearing what the community needs and wants is exactly the same. And the idea is to distribute food locally. And when I say locally, I don't mean Colorado and I don't even mean Santa Fe. They want to grow fresh quality food at or below market price that does not compete with local farmers, that goes into these schools here in this region. And that's been very.
And restaurants.
And restaurants, institutions, et cetera. So, but there's much that hasn't been decided about that because we haven't gone through this collaborative process that we're starting here with you tonight. But the intent is definitely to co-create with this community what is needed, wanted.
Who would own that facility?
We would. ST. Actually, it's a New Mexico registering company called Tia Terra.
I got one more question. So the house is gonna be built first, that's all great, and as development business to an extent, some more better than others, but you guys plan on starting with one house, are you guys gonna try to pre-sell these houses? Cause it really determines, you know, like, all locals, are they gonna have an opportunity to say, yeah, I'd love to go look at this house? And they can start getting financing, or are you guys gonna build them and put them on the market?
No.
No.
No. It's locals first, all the way.
Yeah, like, are you gonna like pre-sell them? Cause how many people move away? You know, our mayor said,
What do you?
move away, but if they don't know about these houses coming up.
Yeah, exactly.
And they don't have the opportunity to get in them up in front.
Yep.
Are they gonna be sold out before they have the opportunity to actually move in?
Absolutely not. And that's why so that's a perfect
So you look
question.
at one house at a time.
Well, we would love to take your guidance on that. What would be the best approach for you guys? And it seems that
I think,
that's straight up the best way.
To our schools, you know, senior class kids are graduating, how many want to stick around? Are you guys just sitting by the house? You guys are right fresh into being an adult.
How would you prevent homes from being bought out of state?
There you go. That's what I was.
Deed restrictions.
Restrictions?
Mark, can you speak to that?
Yeah, if you look at, well, the town of Taos they do have a workforce housing project. They worked out a deed restriction, you either work in Taos or live in Taos, I believe, 2 years. So they were able to, that's the template for what would be done up here. So roughly, it'd be something you have to show that you either work in Questa or live in Questa, and then you would have priority.
So nothing, you just buy that?
No.
What's that?
Nothing, you just buy that?
Not in
No.
California.
Yeah, so if you do look at that,
California.
yeah, look at that template that's going on in the town of Taos. There's some delays on their housing. That's another issue, but,
If you could bring that template to the next meeting, I'm sure you can.
I'm on yeah, and we have
No limit.
we haven't finalized the relationship that the Taos Housing Partnership, which Luis Reyes is also part of. They're offering, they have mortgage counseling advice so people can get their credit in order to get people groomed, so they'd be able to work with the mortgage finance authority.
Because all these stipulations are gonna bring down the purchase price down, which is great, but it's also gonna bring down the loan power on it for a bank to finance. You know, one hand washes the other, it's kind of, it's great, but it's bad.
If you have deed restrictions, and you get a mortgage on that, you know, if they got a call them on their mortgage, they're taking a big risk because they don't want to lend money on a piece of property that has deed restrictions. So
That's usually a black eye right off the bat. If they ever foreclose on it, they're not from here. And how do they own it?
Well, the financing of we're working with local banks first and foremost. Like the whole ecosystem. I know I said it before. I might as well be an alien that crashed in Roswell and kind of crawled up here because I'm not from here.
So that would be basically the work where we help us in town banks, they're the old local, or I guess what they're ready.
We're meeting with Centennial on Friday. All of these the conversations are happening within this ecosystem at every level, whether it's finance, construction. But there's no point in getting into any detail before we have this meeting, because damn, if you guys don't want this, or you pull up some challenges that just are unworkable, then there's no point in doing the project of any sort. But here we have the opportunity to refine and define something that is for you. It's your land. It always will be your land, and it needs to be. And that's in turn, by working with local participants and having that contribution, you guys help yourselves determine the quality of the end product, because you're building it for yourself. And am reluctant to work with people from outside of here because they don't give a shit. They're in product and the longevity of it, and they'll cut corners and whatnot. You guys?
So I'm hearing a lot about the schools and teachers and, all this people that need homes. You know what our community needs, and I'm gonna be sitting on the council here in January, and my whole goal is to make sure we get a community center for kids and elderly. We have nothing for kids right now in every place. Kids are drinking, what else is there doing this time? So,
As a father, I love and honor that. And there's space in this project to build some really cool stuff. This is not just about the housing. Who knows what's going to come from this? You know?
I'm looking forward to that partnership to see what we can do for kids.
That would be ultimate. I mean, the future generations are my ultimate priority. Where in any location of it, I'm doing anything as a father to father.